Hello and welcome to Expats Everywhere. Today I'm here with a friend of mine, Lizzy, and we're going to talk about the best way to get abroad straight out of college and become an expat. So when I say the best, I'm talking about what ways can you earn money, what ways are simple to get abroad, and what ways will offer you a plethora of options to travel to. So not just pigeonhole you in one country, but you have a host of options to go travel to. So Lizzy's going to be talking to us from the perspective of someone as a professional teacher, and then I actually got my start as an ESL teacher abroad. So Lizzy, thanks for joining us. Here we're at the beautiful Avani Resort in Sepang, Malaysia. It's an amazing location, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Well, thanks for meeting up with us. So what's the process like getting a job?
So how I got a job was I went through a database through a college. There's many databases out there for teachers. So there's Search Associates or CIS, which is Council of International Schools. I went through the University of Northern Iowa Career Fair for international schools. So on all of those, you have a website where you put up a portal of your resume and information about yourself and what you're looking for. And then schools can contact you if they see that you fit openings they have, or you can contact those schools if you fit their openings and just email back and forth. Usually you have some Skype interviews, and then a lot of times you go to a fair and you meet them in person. Sweet.
Well, are you still able to use that portal, or do you have to use other means now to find work?
So I've only been using that portal. I think it's the easiest way to find what I'm looking for where I'm looking, and to see everything that they have to offer. So price-wise, salary and benefits and location, size of the school, and the number of teachers.
Okay, so let's talk about if you're not a professional teacher, right? If you're not a professional teacher but you're interested in getting abroad, then the next best option is probably ESL work. So as an ESL teacher, you would probably want to identify maybe a region of the world that you're interested in moving to, and then start looking for ESL positions that way. There are a ton of ESL websites there that have different jobs posted. ESL101.com, Teachaway, Dave's ESL Cafe, which you don't have to pay to look for these jobs, and there are a ton of jobs out there. There are some differences in wages and benefits and all that, which there would be, because ESL teachers aren't necessarily professional teachers. They're native English speakers that are able to teach English as a second language in other countries. And there are different classifications of ESL work. But what are you? What's your course subject?
So I'm certified to teach 5th through 12th grade math.
Okay, and do you find that there are a lot of jobs available for math teachers?
Yeah, I would say math and science are probably the easiest places to get jobs for, because they're in such high demand and the numbers are so low for people who have those qualifications.
Okay, and how much can you make being an international school teacher?
So starting off fresh out of college, I would say 20 to 30,000 USD. But if you have a master's or a few years experience, it could be anywhere from 30,000 to 60,000 or more, depending on the school, how big it is, and its credentials.
Okay, yeah, we're going to try to quote all these prices in USD because different currencies fluctuate, so we'll just try to quote it in USD. And I think for ESL teachers, there's a huge spread. You could go to the Middle East and be making some really, really good money, tax-free money from 40 upwards of 6 figures, really 40,000 upwards of 6 figures, or you could be in parts of Asia where you're making less than $1,000 a month, also parts of South America and Central America where you're making less than that. So there's a huge range. But I think for the international school jobs, it's a tighter range, is it not?
Yeah.
Is that what you've noticed?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And what type of benefits do these international schools offer?
Yeah, so a lot of schools, especially the bigger schools, provide airfare, usually at the start of your hiring and then at the end, or it could be one free flight home every year. And they also provide a lot of times a housing stipend, sometimes even free housing, medical benefits, sometimes a car if it's a city that's hard to commute with public transportation.
They provide a car?
Yeah.
So a car free to use, they pay for the bills and everything. You cover gas, I guess?
Yeah, you would pay for gas.
Pay for gas, okay. Well, that's interesting. What a perk that is. You don't find that in ESL jobs at all. Sometimes you will find transportation is provided. In the Middle East, for example, you'll live on a compound, or most people live on a compound, and then the company would provide transportation to and from work, and maybe from the compound to other spots around town, just because it's difficult. There's no public transportation in a lot of these places. Okay, well, I think that the benefits that you would find in ESL jobs, there's a broad range as well. You might find that a place will offer flights home, housing stipends. Sometimes the housing stipends will cover 100% of the cost to rent a place. Other times it'll be maybe about 50% will get covered. Healthcare, it could really depend on the country you're in. Maybe you just get put on the national healthcare, and then other times you'll have private healthcare. What types of benefits do you look for? Are there specific ones that you look for when you're looking at jobs that you say, it's got to have this, otherwise I'm out?
I would say housing stipend is a big one.
Okay. Keeps costs down, right?
Yes,
you get to save more money, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times if you go under the housing stipend, you get to keep that money,
True.
so that's great. I think also the flight home is a big thing, especially if they pay for extra boxes that you can take home, extra luggage. I look for that as well, because that saves you over $1,000 depending on how far you have to fly home.
Yeah, these international school jobs, they give you these settlement allowances, right? As soon as you arrive, you have cash in hand, which really keeps your startup costs low. I think in the ESL game, you don't really find that many jobs that have these startup costs that are covered as soon as you arrive. Whereas in the international schools, yeah, you have a lot of startup costs that are covered, which makes it easier to get started, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been looking at different locations, and what locations seem to be competitive? And why do you think that they're more competitive than other places?
Yeah, I would say Europe is probably the most competitive, Western Europe specifically, because
Everybody
I
wants
think
to live there.
everyone wants to go there. Yeah. And yeah, I would say Asia and South America is probably the easiest places to get jobs. I'm not sure, probably because not as many people want to go to those places or heard enough about those. Yeah, less competitive there.
Okay. And do you feel like the places that are competitive offer a little less in benefits and salary because so many people want to go there? Or do you find that they still have a high level of salary and benefits?
I would say the salary is probably lower at those places, and they want more experience as well. So it's harder to get those jobs because they want more experience, they want well-qualified teachers, but they don't pay you as much as they would, say, in Asia.
Right. I think that's the thing that we've noticed as well when you're starting out in ESL. There are a couple locations, especially in Asia, that it's very easy to find jobs. There are plenty of jobs available, especially in China, South Korea. And then as you start to move back towards Western Europe, then things get a little more difficult. The jobs become few and far between, and then the pay decreases because there are so many people that are willing to go to those places. Do you plan on being an expat for a long time?
I'm hoping to, yeah. I think it's a great opportunity to see the world, to live in different parts of the world for a few years at a time, and just what you gain, the knowledge you gain from it, the experience you have. You can't get that in the States.
That's true. And so when you started, like, how have your views on that changed? Did you start and think, oh, I'm just going to do this for a contract, 2 years, whatever, 3 years, and then go back to the United States?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, everyone tells you to travel while you're young, and so I thought I'd be there for a couple of years just to enjoy it, get some traveling in, and then go back to the States and teach there. And now being out here and seeing what it's like and the opportunities and meeting people and just the atmosphere of the school at an international school is awesome, and I don't know if I could go back to the States.
Right, yeah, it's kind of crazy because I started out on this 5-year plan and had these ideas of the different regions of the world that I wanted to travel to. And then once I got to like the second country, I was like, actually, this isn't too difficult to transition and move from place to place. I think that I'm going to just do this indefinitely. So I don't know when, if I'll ever go back to the United States to live.
Yeah.
So, Lizzy, what does it mean to be an expat for you? What does that mean?
I think it means living somewhere where it is not home to you, but you make it your home, and living in a diverse atmosphere where you're meeting people who grew up differently than you and have maybe different beliefs or different viewpoints, and embracing that and learning from that culture and adapting, but also bringing with you your own things from home.
And do you feel like a foreigner when you're living abroad? Like, do you feel like a foreigner? Because I know that we use words like immigrant and foreigner and expat almost interchangeably at times. And I think a lot of people look at Americans, or maybe white Americans, as always needing to use the word expat. Do you find that to be true? Do you always refer to yourself as an expat, or are there other words that you refer to yourself as?
I think the term expat has a positive connotation.
Sure.
In that it's someone who wants to learn from the culture around them and embrace it, and is willing to accept those different beliefs and viewpoints, and wants to make it a lifelong journey.
Okay, so here's what I want to do to wrap this up. I want you to tell our viewers why being a teacher is the best way to become an expat.
I think being a teacher is the best way to become an expat because there's so many schools. You can teach literally anywhere in the world. The benefits are far greater than what you would see in the States for teaching. At international schools, the parents are so involved in the students, and they value education, and they respect what you're doing, and it makes you feel great.
Awesome. Listen, we really appreciate you guys watching. Hope you enjoyed the scenery in the background, and that you enjoyed the video, you found it useful. And listen, college graduates, if you want to get out there and see the world, become a teaching expat. It's a great way to do it.